Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. Let's see what's in lineup here today. We've got an MS290 that's here for bar and chain issues, an MS170 for a service, cleanup, and a new chain. We'll start with that right now. Got a battery still in here for, I think, a sharpening. I'll have to look. 261 with a blown up clutch, a 291 missing a bar nut, a 462 that doesn't run right, TS360 blowing fuel out the exhaust, an MS250 that won't start, a two-man Hornet that hasn't ran in 75 years, needs a quick tune-up. He's got some limb work to do. MS170, get on my bench. Good afternoon. Welcome back to my workbench. If you're new here, my name is Erica. Today on the bench, we have a Stihl MS170. We have seen lots of these in the bench. There's going to be lots of 170s. I see lots of them in for service and repairs and cleanups and so on. So this customer dropped this chainsaw off and said, replace the chain, clean the saw up and service it. So it is quite dirty. I see something sticking out from underneath the clutch cover. So the MS170 is a 30cc occasional use homeowner grade saw. This is meant for small work, limbing, yard cleanup, stuff like that. But I have seen people do a ton of work with an MS170. When these saws are kept clean and maintained with a sharp chain, it's amazing the amount of work that these can do. So let's get to the service and cleanup of this MS170. Come along with me. Well, here we are with the Stihl MS170. I didn't sell this saw new, but I do see this saw from time to time for servicing and cleanup. This saw was manufactured in 2018. The MS170 is no longer available for purchase in Canada. It's been replaced with the Stihl MS162. So just a quick walk around on this saw. Plastics, handles, everything. I don't see anything broken. Just see a saw that's in need of a bit of a cleanup. We'll pull that clutch cover off and clean all of this out. Let's have a look at the fuel, the bar oil. I'll step outside with it, just make sure it starts and runs like it should, and then we'll go ahead and start our cleanup and service. Just have a look at the fuel. There is fuel in it. Let's just dump it out and take a look. The fuel tank is spotless clean inside. I don't see any dirt or anything in there. And that there is Stihl Moto Mix. He does come in and buy this stuff by the big can. So we're gonna just put that back in. $1 a drop. And just make sure there's some bar oil in it. Yep, there's enough in there and it looks very clean in there. I'm just going to retension this chain and then we'll step outside with this. Just make sure it runs. Let's step outside the door, make sure this thing fires up for us. I'll meet you out there. this little Stihl MS170 fired up and ran for us. So first things first, let's get the bar and chain off of this. The tensioner on a 170 is on the front of it here, unless you have upgraded to a side tensioner, which we did a video about a week or so ago, about how to make your MS170 tension from the side instead of from the front. It's a very easy upgrade to do if you want to do that. Yeah, this saw was in need of some cleaning, I'd say. So we got a dirty little saw in our hands here. That's okay, we can clean this all up. Everything's gonna be okay. Let's pull the top cover off of this. Check out this air filter. Okay, so he'll be getting a new air filter while it's here. I have replaced this air filter many times before, but he uses this saw quite heavy. Pull that spark plug out. Since we're standing here, I'll grab my camera and we'll have a quick look down the hole. So it looks pretty good down in there. I'm going to put a new plug in this, BPMR7A, gapped properly. I'll give him his old service parts back, of course, if he wants them. But he requested a full service with new plug, new filters. I'm going to take the clutch drum off, bearing, take this plastic off, and then we'll take this saw outside and give it a little mini spa treatment. So I'll take that piece out with me. I've been asked before where the chain catcher is on an MS170. I'll show you where it is. It is built in, no, it's hard to see because it's covered in dirt, but it's built into the clutch cover on this. So I'll take all my bits and pieces out, get this thing cleaned up. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back from our quick and dirty spa treatment. We got the bulk of the dirt cleaned off of this thing. I'm going to show you guys something here that we haven't seen yet on an MS170 that we have done a video on. You see that? That? You see all those little puddles of melted plastic? You see all that melted plastic? What do you suppose causes that? Any guesses? I'll give you a second. Melted plastic in the clutch drum. Any ideas? I'll try to explain how this happens. So you come to your saw, you move it down to choke position, you pull it over a couple times, it pops. You move that lever up into high idle, fast idle, whatever you want to call it. I call it high idle. And then you pull it over again a couple times and it starts. The brake is set. It starts on high idle and you let it sit there and run. You come over, you don't realize it, but this brake band is burning hot. You come up to the saw, and that hot brake band and that plastic just met. And you see what happens. If you ever do this and you realize your saw is sitting there with the brake set, running on high idle, and you think, oh no, do not release the brake. Just turn the saw off and walk away. Let it cool down. The damage occurs once you release the brake. I hope that made sense. So this plastic that is melted here, this is the crankcase of the saw. And the crankcase for this MS170 is $128. And that's not including any time. And this chainsaw was probably purchased for about $180 or $190 brand new. So it's probably not a repair that somebody would want to do. So you just want to be careful that you don't let your saw sit with the brake on high idle. This applies for any plastic crankcase, Homeowner, or farm class ranch saw. I actually contemplated not making a video about this saw because it's an MS170 and I've done several MS170 videos for you guys. It's here for a chain and a service. So I thought, you've already seen that. It's probably not interesting. But you know, almost every time I pick up a saw for service, I find something new to show you guys. So I'm glad I did this now because we got to talk about a high idle brake failure. So we will continue on with the service and cleanup of this chainsaw because it will still function for him, but I will give him a stern warning explaining to him what he's done here before I call CPS, which is the Chainsaw Protective Service. And if they have to go to his place, this chainsaw will likely be confiscated. I'm just kidding about that. But seriously, should you need like a license or something to own a chainsaw? What do you think? Well, let's put this saw back together. I've got the clutch bearing in my hand here, just greasing it. I scraped the plastic out of that drum sprocket. We'll put this burnt plastic back on. I'll put a new air filter in this saw. That's a part number, but that's a part number I believe for a 10-pack, so it's probably not the part number you want. MS170s, there was two different air filters. I call them older and newer. This is the newer style. If you ever need an air filter for your 170, I would just take this with you to your dealer and make sure you get the right one. Let's have a look at the spark arrestor. Looks like it's still in there. I can see it, and it is clean. I'll just take it out and we'll verify it's clean. It is very clean, tiny little bit. I'll clean that up since I've got it out. So just an observation. I'm pretty certain, and I'm going to ask him when he picks it up, but I'm pretty sure that he only runs Stihl modal mix in this saw. And the spark arrestor is clean. This is what he runs in it. Well, we'll put this back on. On these 170s, it's a good idea to always check your spark arrestor. We'll go ahead and put the bar and a new chain on this. He's asked for a new chain, and I will give him his old chain back in case he wants to go do some trenching with it. I did clean the bar rails out, and they're pretty clean. The oil holes on both sides are clean. A couple little burrs we'll clean off. That's that Oregon tool. It's pretty handy. So he runs 3/8 Pico, 50 gauge, 55 drive link. So for a new chain, 3/8 Pico, 50 gauge, 55 drive link, 63 PM 355. Oh, it didn't come out of the box in a kink. Neat. How did he bring it into me? Still letters up or still letters down? Can't remember. I just looked back through the footage and he brought it to me like this. So I'm going to install it like this for even bar wear. He's probably going to say something like, Erica, you put the bar on upside down. And I'll say, don't worry. Everything is going to be okay. I'm trying to get in the habit of wearing my gloves when I'm handling these bars and chains. I cut myself almost every day, and I need to stop doing that. Okay, so we got our bar upside down. We got our chain not on backwards. So let's go ahead and install his bar on upside down for him. All the neighbors can point and laugh. and he can just blame it on me. Okay, we are nearing the finish line here with this MS170. I looked back through my records and I replaced his fuel filter 6 weeks ago when it was here last. So I'm not going to put a new one in it. He doesn't need a new filter every 6 weeks. And he only runs Stihl Moto Mix in this, and his fuel tank is spotless clean inside. Well, what'd I miss? Yell it out to me. What did I miss? What do you say we pop outside, fire this thing up one more time, make sure it's oiling, and if it is, I think it's ready to go home. I'll meet you outside. Okay, so this little Stihl MS170 starts good, runs good, and it's oiling. When the customer dropped this off, he said, replace the chain, clean it up, and service it. So we have replaced the spark plug and the air filter. We didn't replace the fuel filter because it had a new one about 6 weeks ago, and he only runs Stihl Moto Mix in this. He has a clean fuel tank. We checked the spark arrestor, and it was clean. We took the clutch drum off. We found that he has high idle brake failure. I showed you that with the melted plastic. So I think this saw is ready to go back home. I have a whole line of saws over there waiting for me. I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee, get on to the next chainsaw. Thank you so much for watching.